Hello guys, in today's video I'm gonna go over absolute value functions, and then we're gonna solve absolute value equations and inequalities, and then we're gonna graph the absolute value function. So let's start with the basics. The absolute value of a number, let's say n, absolute value of a number n can be written as like this, number between two vertical lines. So this is called the absolute value or the modulus of n. Okay, and this is basically the distance between n and a 0 on a number line. So let's say this is a number line and here it's 0. I got number n over here. So this distance between 0 and n is called the absolute value of this n, and it can be on this hand side too. Let's say negative n, right? But again the distance stay the same, n, distance can't be negative. So absolute value of number is always positive. Okay, so let's say I got absolute value of x is equal to 5. So the distance between x and 0, so this is 0, this is x, so distance between x and 0 is 5, and the solution for this equation is going to be x is going to be 5 or x is going to be negative 5. So only these two solution gives me the distance from 0 equal to 5. So this is 5 on this side, and let's say this is negative 5 on this side, but again the distance from 0 to this negative 5 is positive 5. Okay, so the value of x can be negative 5, but again the absolute value of the number is always positive. Okay, so let's solve few absolute value equations. Let me write a general absolute value equation, so which looks like let's say ax plus b, absolute value of that is equal to c, and c is greater than or equal to 0. Okay, and it is equivalent to ax plus b. Ax plus b is equal to c, or ax plus b is equal to negative c. So both of those still gives me positive c. That's why c is greater than or equal to 0. Alright, so let's solve few equations, the problems. That way you'll see what I'm talking about. Let's say I got an example. They said solve x minus 6, absolute value of x minus 6 is equal to 12. So we are going to find the value of x that will validate this equation. Okay, so according to the rule, x minus 6 is equal to 12, or x minus 6 is equal to negative 12, right? So let's solve this. I'm going to add 6 on both sides over here. So this gives me x is equal to 18. Okay, and let's add 6 here. Like this cancel out, this cancel out. This gives me x is equal to negative 6. So either x is equal to 18 or x is equal to negative 6. When we plug in over here, will give us answer is equal to 12. And we can check it. So these are the solution. Let's say x is equal to 18. So if we plug in x equal to 18 over here, what you'll get? So 18 minus 6. 18 minus 6 is 12. So absolute value of 12 is 12. Good. Let's try negative 6. So you got negative 6, negative 6, which gives me absolute value of a negative 12, which is again equal to positive 12. So these two are the solutions to our equation over here, this one. Okay, so let's do a couple more example. Let me make more space over here, that way we can solve more problems. Okay, let's work on next problem, which is going to be 4 into x plus 9, and this is the absolute function over here. Negative 5 is equal to 19. So we need to follow few steps. We need to make this equation equal to, like, we're gonna make it look like this: ax plus b kind of equation equal to something, let's say c. Okay, so we need to solve. That means we need to do some algebra steps over here. So first of all, let's get rid of this 5. How we can do that? If I add 5 over here and add 5 over here, this will cancel out. So I left with 4. Absolute value of x plus 9 is equal to 24. Now we want to get rid of this 4 over here. So if I divide both sides by 4, right, 4 goes to the 1, and on left hand side I left with x plus 9 is equal to 4 times 6 is 24 is equal to 6. So now x plus 9 is either equal to positive 6 or x plus 9 is equal to negative 6, because both values gonna give me positive 6 when we plug in over here. So let's solve it. So I'm gonna subtract 9 over here, cancel out. So this gives me x is equal to negative 3, or let's subtract 9 over here. So x is equal to negative 15 over here. So these are my solutions, and we can check our solutions if we plug in over here. And let's do that. So if x is negative 3, so negative 3 plus 9 gives me absolute value of 6, which is 6. So that works out. This is our solution. So let's try negative 15. So x is a negative 15 plus 9, which is again absolute value of negative 6, which is 6. So worked out. So these two are the solution to this equation, or this equation over here. Okay, so we're gonna do a couple more examples so that you guys will be good to go. So next example I'm going to write is 2 absolute value of x minus 4 plus 4 is equal to 2. Again, our goal is to write it, make it look like ax plus b is equal to c, right? So I got 4 over here, so let's get rid of this 4, cancel out. This gives me 2 into absolute value x minus 4 is equal to negative 2. And now if I divide both sides by 2, this 1 and 1, so this gives me x minus 4 is equal to negative 1. Now look at this carefully. So according to the definition of absolute value, the absolute value of a number can't be negative, but in this case we are getting the absolute value of this number is equal to negative. That means there are no solutions. Okay, so there are no solutions to this equation. All right, let's do one more. That's the interesting one, so let's write it down. I got absolute value of x plus 6, and it is equal to absolute value of x minus 4. Okay, what we're gonna do over here? Same thing. So we're gonna write x plus 6 is equal to x minus 4, or we're gonna say x plus 6 is equal to negative of x minus 4. Okay, so let's solve it. So if I take x from both sides, so this tells me 6 is equal to negative 4, which is not true. It's not equal to negative 4. So that means this is not a solution. Not a solution. So this part will not give us a solution. Let's do some steps over here. So x plus 6, I'm going to distribute negative. This gives me negative x, positive 4. And now if I add x over here, and x over here. These will cancel out, so this gives me 2x plus 6 is equal to 4. Let's subtract 6 from both hand side. So this gives me 2x is equal to negative 2, and divide it by 2, and we'll get x is equal to negative 1. Okay, and this is a solution, and we can check it if we plug in this number back over here, and we can try it. So x is a negative 1. So if x is a negative 1, on left hand side we got negative 1 plus 6, and on right hand side we got negative 1, negative 4. So on left hand side we got absolute value of 5, and on right hand side we got absolute value of negative 5, and both are equal to 5. Okay, so that means this is the solution. Okay, so that's how you can solve absolute value equations. Okay, and now I'm gonna go over some absolute value inequalities. Okay, so let's work on few of the examples with absolute inequalities. So first of them, I got absolute value of x minus 3 greater than or equal to 8. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, so it can be written as x minus 3 is less than or equal to negative 8, or x minus 3 greater than or equal to 8. Okay, so let's solve them. So add 3 over here. Same thing I'm gonna do on this side. So this gives me x less than or equal to negative 5, and this gives me x greater than or equal to 11. Okay, so these are the solutions to this absolute value inequality, and we can check it. And let me draw it on a number line. So this is 0. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this is a negative 5, and this side is going to be 11. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Let's say 11. Okay, so it says x is less than or equal to 5. So that means this is my solution set starting from here. Okay, and this said greater than or equal to 11. So on this hand side, starting from here, is the solution. Okay, so if we plug in these values, then this inequality is valid. And we can check it. So x is less than or equal to negative 5. Let's say we plug in equal to negative 5. So x is a negative 5. We got 3 greater than or equal to 8. So this gives me negative 5, negative 3, negative 8 greater than or equal to 8. And again, absolute value of negative 8 is 8, which holds this inequality. So 8 is either greater than or equal to, and this is equal to. And if we use any number smaller than negative 5, let's say negative 6, that will give me negative 9, and 9 which is greater than 8. So that is valid. And let's try this one. 11 greater than or equal to 11. Let's say I use 11. So x is 11 minus 3 greater than or equal to 8. So this is equal to absolute value of 8, and this also holds our inequality. So these two are the solution. These are the solutions to this inequality. Okay. So the rule is we're gonna write, if it's greater than or equal to, first thing is write x minus 3 less than or equal to negative of this, and greater than or equal to that number. Okay, let's do one more, and that's where we're gonna do here. So let's say we got negative 2x negative 5, okay, plus 2 is less than 6. So first of all, we need to get rid of this 2 over here. So we're gonna subtract 2 on both sides. So this will cancel out this one. So we got negative 2x and negative 5. So absolute value of negative 2x minus 5 is going to be less than 4. And we can write it as negative 2x negative 5 is greater than negative 4 or less than 4. Okay, so let's simplify this. Sorry, it's going to be 2x. So let's add 5 in all of them. Okay, so this gives me negative 2x is greater than 1 and less than 9. Sorry, negative 1. Okay, and now we're going to divide it by negative 2. Let's see, negative 2. So this gives me 0.5 is greater than x is greater than negative 4.5. Remember, whenever we are multiplying or dividing by a negative number, we're going to reverse the symbol of inequality, and that's what we did over here. And I can write it as x is greater than negative 4.5 and less than 0.5. So this is the solution. This is the solution to this inequality. And on number line, how we can graph it. So it can be graph as this is 0. Let's say this is 1, and say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so this is 0. So 0.5. So it is less than 0.5. So an open circle over here, and greater than negative 4.5. So this is going to be here. So this is the graph. Okay, so this is my 4.5 and this is my 0.5 over here. So solution is between these 2 points, but not including those points. This is an open circle. All right, so that's how you can solve the absolute value inequalities. Okay, and let me go over the graphing. So how we can graph absolute value functions. Okay, so let's make some space over here. Okay, so let's do this one. Let me write down in general. So let's say we got a function f of x is equal to absolute value of x. Okay, so if I plug in x is equal to 1 over here, okay, I'm gonna write x value and f of x, which is basically y. So if x is equal to 1, or let's say 2, then f of x is also going to be 2. If it is 1, it is going to be 1. If it is 0, it's going to be 0. And if x is equal to negative 1, then f of x is going to be positive 1. If it's negative 2, it's going to be positive 2. So let's graph it over here. So this is my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So if x is 2, which is here, and y is going to be 2, so that's the point. Okay, and if x is 1, y is going to be 1. If x is 0, y is going to be 0. So this is the point. Okay, and now if x is negative 1, so these are my negative numbers on left hand side. So negative 1 and y is positive 1. If x is negative 2, y is positive 2. So that's how my absolute value function graph looks like. Okay, same thing here on this side. Okay, so that's what is the absolute value functions graph, the basic function if it is equal to x. And now we need to learn if there is any if we are translating or moving the graph left or right, up or down, so what will happen if function does not look like this simple function? So we're gonna go over a few rules. About that. So let's do that. So let's say if you got another function, and I'm naming it g of x, and g of x is equal to absolute value of x minus h. So that means we are subtracting something from this x value. All right, so that means the graph, if h is greater than 0, then graph will move to the right. So this original graph will move to the right by two places, okay? And if it is 2, if it is h, it is h, okay? So let's say I got x minus 2, right? So the graph will move to the right by these two places. So it will move over here. So it will look like this. Then it will look like this, okay? And now let's say if h is less than 0, h is negative, that means g of x is equal to x plus 2. Okay, if it is negative 2, move the graph to the right by two places. If it is positive 2, then this graph will move to the left by two places. So it will be, the new graph will be over here. All right. And now let's say if we got g of x, absolute value of x plus k, okay, we are adding to the function here. And now if k is greater than 0, let's say for example x is positive 2, then the graph will move 2 units above the original graph. So this is my original graph, right? So if it is 2 over here, the graph will move 2 units above the original graph. So 1 and 2. So it will be, the new graph will be over here for this function, pink. Okay, and now if k is less than 0, like we got g of x absolute value of x minus 2, then the original graph will move 2 units below the graph of f of x, so 1 and 2, then it will be over here, then it will move over here 2 units. All right, so that's another case. So I'm gonna 1, 2, 3. Now let's do one more. Let me use the different color. Yeah, purple. So if the function is g of x is equal to absolute value of x and multiply by a, okay, so there are a couple of things you need to remember in this case. If this a, the absolute value of this a is greater than 1, the graph is going to be narrower than the graph of f of x is equal to absolute value of x. If a is greater than 1, then the new graph is going to be narrow compared to my original graph. Remember, this green one is original graph. So the new graph, the purple one, is a into absolute value of x. So the graph will become more narrow over here in this case. Okay, and if the value of a is less than 1, what it is going to be greater than 0. Okay, it's less than 1 and greater than 0, then the new graph is going to be wider than the original graph. Remember, this is green is my original graph, so this purple is going to be now wider. compared to the original graph, which is, in this case, a is greater than 0, less than 1. And another thing is, if let me choose yellow, if a is greater than 0, then our graph of this function open up. Okay, for the positive values of a, graph will be opening upward. But if it is less than 0, then it opens down. Okay, like a is a negative, then graph will look like downward. It will open downward, so it will be a reflection along the x-axis to the original function. All right, so I believe you guys learned this. Maybe just watch it one more time, you'll be good to go. Okay, so we're gonna graph one function over here which will have all of these values, right? All of these translations to the absolute value function. So let me write it down over here. So I got function g of x is equal to x minus 3 plus 4. You see, we are subtracting from the x, we are adding 4 to the function, and we are multiplying by a number. So everything is there what we learned in the previous step. Okay, so remember, if we are subtracting 3, that means if we are subtracting 3, that means the graph will move to the right. Let me draw the original graph over here first of all, then we can see how it moves. So original graph is f of x of absolute value of x, which is basically, the point is here, 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 and here. So the graph looks like this. So according to those rules, when we are taking out 3 from x, the graph gonna move 3 points to the right. Okay, so 1, 2, 3 points to the right. And when we are adding 4 over here, that tells me, and k is greater than 0, so this is my k, then graph is going to move that many unit above the original graph. So it's gonna move 4 unit above. So 3 unit to the right, 1, 2, 3, and 4 unit above the original graph. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is going to be my point over here, the new point, and the graph will look like something going to this side and going to this side. Okay, and then we look into what number it is multiplied. So this is my a. So remember, let me write down this standard g of x is equal to a x minus h plus k. Let's see. Okay, if a is positive, that means the new graph is going to open upward. Okay, it's going to open above, and if it is greater than 1, it's going to be narrower than the original graph. This is my original graph. Okay, so let me make more space over here. Okay, so let's find out how the graph will look like. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna plug in some x values and find the gx values. So I'm gonna make x over here, and gx over here. So let's say x is 1. So if I plug in 1 over here and solve it, I get gx is equal to 8, and 2 then gives me 6, 3 gives me 4, and 4 gives me 6, and 5 gives me 8. All right, let's graph those points. So x is 1 and y is 8. So x is 1 and y is equal to 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is the point. X is 2 and y is equal to 6. 1, 2, and y is equal to 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and x is equal to 3 and y is equal to 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this is third point. So x is 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and y is 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's the point. and x is 5 and y is 8. So 1 2 3 4 5 and 8 is going to be over here. And if you look at this new graph is for sure narrower than our original function's graph, right? And it moved by 3 points to the right. That's what this number did. It moved the graph to 3 places to the right. Okay, and we added 4 and it's positive. So what this did, this moved the graph 4 points above the original graph. Okay, it moved it upward, and this too is positive. That means the new graph is going to open upward, and that's true. And this is greater than 1. That means the graph is going to be more narrower compared to the original graph. Okay, so this graph is more narrow compared to our original graph. All right, so that's how you can graph any absolute value function. So we did all the translations in one example. That way you can learn everything at one place. Alright, thanks for watching the video, guys. I will make more videos. Please subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss any video I make. Thank you for watching the videos. Have a good day. Bye bye.